A year ago or so, I switched from Unity to Godot because I was getting frustrated with Unity's constant crashes. Learning Unreal seemed a bit too daunting, so Godot appeared to be the perfect engine choice. When I started, I used C# to make my games because I was already comfortable with the language and didn't see the point in learning a different one. Recently, though, I've wondered whether it might be a good idea to check out some of the other languages Godot has to offer and see if they are worth using. I also want to document my experiment on YouTube to hopefully help all the new game devs who are dropping Unity because of the recent ironSource merger. Godot has 3 languages for scripting: GDScript, C#, and VisualScript. I will make the same game with all 3 languages 3 times to compare them more effectively. However, I will vary some of the aspects of each game to match my perceived strengths in the languages. I chose to make Pong for this little experiment because it's easy. I don't want to spend a month making the same complicated game 3 times in a row just to pick a programming language. GDScript is Godot's primary language. Most people who use Godot use GDScript, so you will find that almost all tutorials are done with GDScript. It's also very high level and easy to write code with for beginners. C#, I believe, was added because Unity uses C#, and most people who try out Godot come from Unity. Please don't quote me on that. It's also a bit more performant than GDScript, though for most people and most games, there's not really going to be a performance difference. Overall, there's not much difference when using it over GDScript, and almost all the tutorials online that use GDScript could be easily translated into C#. VisualScript is supposed to be easy for people who don't know any programming language, as it's not a programming language you type. Instead, you place functions and variables on the screen as nodes and connect them up with lines until it runs. It's the least performant of the languages for what I feel are obvious reasons. For my GDScript version of Pong, I decided to use pixel art because when I think of GDScript, I think of Godot. When I think of Godot, I think of epic indie games. When I think of epic indie games, I think of pixel art games like Stardew Valley, Celeste, Undertale, Shovel Knight, etc. I chose a small color palette from lowspec.com, 2-bit Demochrome palette by Space Sandwich, because I feel that Pong's a simple game and probably doesn't need many colors. The ball speeds up with every bounce, and the enemy AI follows the Y position of the ball at the same speed as the player, which is good enough for me. It's effortless to beat because the AI is not very advanced, but I don't care. I'm just trying out a programming language, not trying to actually make a super fun game. First to 11 wins for all 3 games, by the way. For the C# version, I made the game in 3D. This meant that the physics engine was better. I also used a top-down orthographic camera and made a slightly better enemy AI. It gets the ball's trajectory and moves to intercept it. Of course, this has some issues, but I don't care. Other than that, though, it's the same game as the GDScript one. For the VisualScript Pong, I wanted to make it look like a prototype, which is part of what VisualScript is supposed to be meant for. So I drew a sketchy arena, paddles, and ball to look slapped together. I used the same AI as the GDScript Pong, but made the enemy paddle faster. This is the most difficult to beat Pong game because the ball bounces unpredictably off the walls and the enemy can almost always block the ball. Sometimes it does this due to a collision bug I don't feel like fixing. My experience with GDScript during this project is that it's swift and easy to type with. You don't have to worry about curly brackets, angle brackets, square brackets, or any other kind of brackets. I do miss semicolons though. It's also a little harder for me to read than programming languages like C# because curly braces let my brain separate the different bits of code a little better. Still, it's not difficult to read, it's just a little more ambiguous than other languages. I obviously didn't notice any performance problems from using GDScript because I was making Pong, but that'll be the case for 99% of games made with it. Performance problems usually come from poorly optimized code, which is rarely fixed by just using a faster language. C# is nice. It's easy for me to type with because I'm pretty used to it, though I doubt a beginner would be faster with C# than GDScript. It's also not as quick to type with as GDScript, but it's not too bad if you're used to it. It's also closer to machine code than GDScript, which means it's a little more performant. Most Godot tutorials on the internet are in GDScript, but it's not too difficult to translate into C#. VisualScript was a nightmare. It's so slow to use. For example, if you wanted to add a variable and call it speed, then increment it by 1 every frame for some reason, in GDScript and C# you would use speed++. Easy peasy. In VisualScript, however, you would add a global variable, call it speed, set it to an integer, set it to whatever you want it to start at, then add get and set nodes for that variable, add a math add node, realize that math add node takes vector 2's because you also added a vector 2 earlier and were messing with it, fix that, connect it all up correctly, and you're finally done. These are side-by-side comparisons of the player's paddle's movement code in GDScript versus VisualScript. It's hard to read and write and the least performant of the three languages, which isn't a surprise. It's supposed to be easy for artists and folks who don't know how to program. Still, I feel like it requires at least a basic programming knowledge to use, and it's just so gosh dang slow in every way. So, I will never use it again. Crazy to me that it's the default in Unreal Engine. In conclusion, GDScript is best for beginners and people who are used to it. C# is best for people who are really comfortable with it and writing CPU-intensive games. VisualScript is good for nobody. I will start using GDScript primarily because of how easy and fast it is to use. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I hope this video helped you out in some way or another. If it did, you could ask me for more of these kinds of videos by liking, subscribing, and even telling me in the comments what type of content you want to see. Thanks for watching this far, and I hope to see you again someday.